Hello all, this is Kevin Bernatz at Dr. Bernatz Development, and this is our third video on Hubris, the GMT P500 game. And in this video and the next couple, I'm going to basically just work through the first turn and give you guys an idea of the gameplay. And for this purpose, I'll just be playing each of the three kingdoms individually. It's not ideal, but there's actually no hidden information or anything, so Hubris actually plays quite well solo in this mode where you're basically playing each kingdom to the best of its abilities. So the first thing at the start of the turn is we prepare the decks, if you remember, and that's already pretty much been done in the vassal module, and all the leaders are in their appropriate courts. So then the the next thing with the setup is the royal army and the siege train basically go face up in any satrapy where you have a controlled or an aligned place. So in this case, Macedon is going to put their royal army and siege train there. I can then delete this reminder. And for the Ptolemies, I think we'll just put them in Lower Egypt. And then the Seleucids, we'll put their royal army in Seleucus and the siege train over in Babylonia. So let's go to the sequence of play. So that's eventually a setup, and then we did the deck preparation, and now the revenue phase. So for the first turn, the revenue phase is easy since we have the tax base. It's actually in the scenario setups. So Seleucids have 21. Again, because of that war, they're halved, so it goes down to 11. So 10 up to 21. The Ptolemies are also halved because of the war, so 41 becomes 21, so they go up to 28. And Macedon is at peace, so they get their full 11.5, which rounds up to 12, so they go up to 16. And again, the tax base is given in the scenario setup, so there's no need to calculate it on the first turn. You just have to sort of keep track of any changes or just calculate at the end of the turn, or the start of the next turn. So after revenue, we go to Roman politics. So just a D6, and we roll a 3. A 3 is no change, so the Roman belligerent stays the same. And then we move to the mercenary phase. So no one can bid on the Galatians because no one has any aligned places in Galatia, and that's the only available location for the Galatian mercenaries. In Mysia, the Ptolemies can bid on them, and they're the only ones. They're also the only ones that can bid on the Cretans, and the Macedons are the only ones that could bid on Western Greece. So let's just say, okay, we'll start with the mercenary in Illyria. Maybe Macedon bids 2, which again, if you remember, is the minimum bid. Ptolemies kind of want this unit in Thrace, so they're going to bid 4, let's say. Let's say they bid 3, so then Macedon generally is poor in this game relative to the other two kingdoms. So they might say, okay, fine, you can have it for 3. So they flip it, they put it in Thrace. Now they could move it somewhere if they wanted to, but for this sake, let's just say they want to keep it in Thrace. And so we deduct 3 talents from their treasury. Macedon says, okay, well, I need to get a mercenary, so I'm going to bid, let's say they bid 2 on the Peloponnese one. Ptolemy really doesn't want to get in a bidding war. Like I said, they have access to 2 other mercenaries, so they say, fine, okay, Macedon, you can have that. And so we're going to put this guy here, and there's sort of a reason I'm putting it in the same spot. This allows the royal army to leave, and we still have someone sort of defending Macedon. I really don't want to leave Macedon empty. It's worth 7 VPs and 6 talents. So, I mean, it is their primary source of income and VPs, and so Macedon really has to be careful about leaving this empty. So that costs Macedon 2 talents. And Seleucids can't bid on anyone. So Ptolemies can bid on additional mercenaries. So they're going to we're just going to go all out. So they're going to bid 2 here and put this mercenary in Ionia Lydia and just leave it there so they have some defense against the rebel. And then they're going to take this mercenary and we'll put it in Coel, Syria. So the way this would work, so again, this is the Cretans, and so they start in Crete. Well, no Ptolemaic places in Crete. Lycia, Pamphylia, it could start there or it could start in Nesius. It doesn't really matter which one, and then it moves by sea to where they want. It starts here, face up, and then they can move it via sea to this path here, and that's where they'll place it. And I forget if I deducted, so they started with 28, and they should have minus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so I have to deduct another 2. And so that's the mercenary phase. Macedon doesn't want to spend the extra money for this mercenary, so they're going to leave it there. If they need it later, they could potentially purchase it if it's still there. Then we go to the action phase. So for the first activation, the decks are already prepared, so we draw the first card. Actually, you know what? Let me shuffle these. I don't know if there's an easy way to shuffle them in vassals. Let me just grab a whole bunch. Okay. And now we're going to draw the first card. Okay, so the first card is a recurrent event, Stasis and Intrigues. So we roll a d6, which is a 2. And we look on the card and we see, well, what is the 2? So 1 to 2, unalign 1 random alignment marker from Peloponnese, Corinth last. So Corinth is up here. It's going to be hard to see with we recognize that having the names printed where they are is probably not what we're going to have in the final graphics. We'll probably move it outside so then it's easy to see the names even if there's an alignment marker there. So that this is, like I said, these are playtest graphics, so you have to accept we're finding some of the visual issues in these graphics. So Corinth is here, so that would be the last one. So really we're looking at these 4 locations. One of these 4 will get unaligned. So I'm just going to roll a d6, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 or 6 I roll again. So 1. So unfortunately for the Macedon, Achaea is unaligned. So what that does, they no longer have both Achaean League places with alliances. So the Achaean League says, well, we don't like you anymore, Macedon. So this goes back to the banner. And Aratos goes away from the Macedon court. So I'm going to put him here for now and put him in the minor leaders area. So you'll find the Greek island is, or the Greek peninsula is always troublesome for the Macedon. They have lots of issues with getting those pesky Greeks in line. So then we look at the next part of the cards, the game mechanic at the bottom, storms and worms. So d6 for every squadron in play. You eliminate it unless it's the last squadron for the kingdom or nation, or power I should say. Then it only is eliminated on a d6 4, a second d6 4 to 6. So Macedon has a single squadron, so I'll roll for that. A 6, okay, so let's see. So this squadron is eliminated. So just starting right off the bat on a roll for Macedon. Now let's look at, so the Pergamon squadron, we'll roll for that. It's okay. The Rhodian squadron, it is okay. Seleucids have no squadron, so we just have to look at the Ptolemy squadron. So they have one here, one in Cyprus, and one in Ionia Lydia. I'll just start here and work south. So the top one, it's okay. Next one, next one. So the only thing that happened was basically the Macedonian squadron got worm-ridden. Then we look up at the top of the recurrent event card, and this is where the activations occur. So the sequence will be Ptolemy, Macedon, Seleucid. Rome is peaceful, so they don't activate, and each kingdom basically gets to do one action. Now there's no pending events yet, so there's no opportunities they can take advantage of. So it's simply looking at the Ptolemy leaders and deciding what they want to do. So remember, they start at war with the Seleucids. So this may not be the ideal opening or starting for the Ptolemies, but we're going to just run it, and I make no claim for making the ideal or the best decisions. But we're going to do a campaign. So we're going to take the Ptolemaic king. Now remember, for him, any activation results in him becoming spent. So I have to rotate him twice. He's going to start. He could start in Seleucus, but we're just going to have him start in Quell, Syria, just because. So he starts in actually I take it, recent rule changes, he has to start in a controlled satrapy. So because all the places in Quell, Syria are Ptolemaic, they control the satrapy and they have full control. So he's going to start in Quell, Syria. He will bring this mercenary, the royal army, and they're going to also bring this military colonist. So they flip it over, and then it basically if it can trace a land path, then it can be brought with the king. And just because they're the Ptolemies and have lots of money, they're also going to do the same with their siege train. So they're coming big. So all these end up going on the leader card. And if you remember, normally you would put them directly on the card, but again, Vassal doesn't always play nicely with stuff on cards when they rotate. So I'm just going to put them down here. Now we determine the cost of the campaign. So it's I have to look. You look at where. So then technically he moves in here, but you're looking at the cost of the campaign. So it's 3 talents per unit. Well, he has 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So 4 times 3 is 12. Now the king gets a discount of 3. So essentially the first unit is free as long as it's a 3 value satrapy. If you notice, some it goes all the way up to 8 for campaigning in some satrapies. So now 12 minus 3 is 9, so it's going to cost 9 talents. So this goes down to 12. So you can see campaigns with lots of units, you're not going to be doing a lot of them during a turn. Campaigns are usually run with 1 or 2 units, and again, even that's going to be a added cost to a kingdom. So they've declared the campaign. The Seleucids have a single royal army here. Now the royal army is elite. You could tell that by the name being on an orange banner instead of, if you look at these guys, on a gray banner. So the background underneath the name. So elite units, they have +1 to hit, and they take 2 hits to eliminate. So there's a good chance that, he's only rolling 3. He's only got 3 land units. He would roll against his combat rating. So that's look at the campaign, the red flag, and then the orange banner underneath it, and that value is a 3. So he would have 3 rolls, 1 for each unit, needing a 1 to 3 to determine a hit. Now, if you ever roll a natural 1, that generates 2 hits. So there is this variable. You can never have perfect planning, because if the other person rolls a couple natural 1s, they could really achieve a glorious success. So what the Seleucids' options are, they could withdraw and just say, okay, we're not going to fight this fight. They could muster a leader. So the king could come down and have a big fight. Though note, again, it's 1 unit versus 3, so he may not want to fight that fight. Now he does have advantages. If there's rough terrain, he would ignore it. Well, there isn't in Quell, Syria. And if there's a Ptolemaic friend in the satrapy, he could convert that friend. But in this case, it's the king, so he can't really convert him. but he does have a 4 battle rating. So he would roll a 4 with the +1 for elite, needing a 5 to hit. So he would get a hit. It's just a question of, does the Ptolemaic player score 2 hits on him in return? If he does, this unit is going to go dispersed, and basically bad things are going to happen. So in this case, let's just say that the Seleucids decide they're going to withdraw. And they withdraw to Mesopotamia, but at the same time they're going to bring, let's see, which leader? They're going to bring Antipatros. So he has a campaign flag, so we're going to send him to the map. So we designate him as one of the strategos that can go to the map, and we put him here. So as his reaction, what he will do is he'll do something called strengthen defenses. I think that is here, strengthen defenses. So what it allows him to do, for 1 talent per city, he can place a strengthen defense marker on it. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 cities in here. He's going to strengthen all of them. So that'll cost 4 talents. And it places 4 of these markers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, each kingdom only has 5 of these, and they basically can only be used once per turn. So, he's using these up, and these are essentially all that he's going to get for the turn. And what these do is they apply a -1 to any siege attempt, so they make it harder for the Ptolemies to conquer any of these territories. Now, because this strategos doesn't have any units, there's no actual battle. Okay, even so, they can exist in the same area. Leaders don't really fight leaders. We're not at that scale for this game. So, no battle. That means after the battle, the outcome, actually I guess it's better on this one. So that you have the campaign. If there's a forest, they fight a battle, and then unless they're defeated, or if it's an indecisive battle, so neither side wins, that would be what we call an indecisive battle. So unless that happens, they get 4 campaign options. And that's where we're at. Essentially, there's no battle, so they get their campaign options. And the campaigns can be siege rolls, it can be subjugations. Remember, subjugations are against tribes, which are these circles. Sieges are against cities. That's how you capture them militarily, either a siege or a subjugation. Or you can plunder, but you can only do that once per campaign. And what it does is you get you get money, essentially 3 talents per troop, up to the maximum tax value. So in this case, the maximum tax value is 5. So the Ptolemies are going to do 1 plunder and 3 sieges. Note that there's no tribes. There's no tribes in Seleucus, so subjugation would be meaningless. So for the plunder, it's automatic. All you do is you place a ravage, and you score, again, 3 talents per unit up to the maximum of 5. Well, he's got 4 units, so he easily gets up to the maximum of 5. So he adds 5 talents to his treasury. And then he has 3 siege rolls. So each siege roll only succeeds, if you look back at his campaign flag, you look at the black banner with that number 2. So he has a siege rating of 2. Now he has the siege train with him, so that's going to add +1 to his siege rating, so it's a 3. So he has to roll 3 times, and every result that is a 3 or less is a success. But remember, all of these places have the -1s on them. So effectively, he's looking for 1s or 2s. If there was a squadron, let's say the Seleucids had a squadron, out here, squadrons can support any city that has a port symbol on the sea that they're in. And if they're supporting the port, it basically takes 2 successful sieges to conquer the city. Now, the first one would remove the strength and defense, but you would need 2 successful sieges to take over a city. Let me send this back to the force pool. Okay, so 3 siege rolls. 1, 2, 3, 6, 4, and 4. So the strength and defenses actually didn't really make a difference. He just rolled poorly, but he ends up conquering nothing. All he really did in his campaign is chase away the royal army and ravage this satrapy. So we now look at the next activation, and this is Macedon. So Macedon, they would like to get back their ability to bring in Aratos into their court and to use that Achaean League unit. So what they're going to do is they're going to launch their own campaign with their king. So they're going to bring Philip, and they're going to bring the royal army. So Philip's going to start. See, here's this. Yeah, they don't control Peloponnese anymore, because I can show this on the Peloponnese card. So if you look at the Peloponnese card, you need 4 places for control. So this actually should go off of their deck, or off of their court. It would go back to the uncontrolled, and you would actually adjust. Let me undo that for a second. So they lost VP, so they would lose 1 VP. So this again goes back to uncontrolled. They lose 1 VP. VPs are instantaneous. So notice that VPs, we have several VP markers. One is your territorial VPs. One is your dynastic VPs. And then the last one is your total VPs, which is the sum of those. And actually, if your king has renown, that adds to the VPs. That's why, if you notice, the total VPs for Seleucids is 1 more than the territorial, even though the dynastic is 0. So Macedon's VPs are down 1. They control Western Greece. They have 2 of the 3 places for control. And again, you can always look at the satrapy cards. So Western Greece, if you look right underneath the map image that shows where it is, it says 2 places for control. So they have control of Western Greece. So the king would start in Western Greece. The royal army is here. It can move to Western Greece. So it moves here. And then they have to choose a target satrapy. So the target satrapy is an area adjacent. So they're going to target the Peloponnese. And so that's where they're targeting. And he's going to also target Sparta. So the Spartan army will rise up against him. And now if you remember, sort of the same question that the Seleucids had, the Ptolemies have. The difference, though, is they only have 1 leader that has the campaign icon. So if they bring this leader over to Peloponnese, he's basically going to be stuck there. And they can't use him to help defend Ionia Lydia or maybe attack into Thrace. Because once the leader's on the map, if you want to use him somewhere else, he has to be able to trace a land path. Well, there's no land path, obviously, from Peloponnese to here that's through friendly areas. It would all be through Macedon territory. So the Seleucids are basically going to just let the Spartan army fight on its own. And what that's going to end up doing, hold on one second, is having it only hit on a 1 or a 2. You look at the Macedon king. Oh, he has to rotate because he was activated. He has a battle rating of 4. Sorry, I moved the mouse. Royal army is elite, so that's going to make it a 5. So Macedon hits on a 5 or less, and of course they roll a 6. And then the Spartan army, they hit. So they hit with a 2, though. That's only 1 hit against the royal army. Again, elites take 2 hits to eliminate, and so it would basically be a bounce off of the elite unit, and this is an example of a indecisive battle because he didn't chase away the Spartan unit. If you look again at the action here, unless defeated or indecisive battle. Well, it was an indecisive battle, so he does not get his 4 campaign options, and that's the end of the Macedon activation. So Macedon is continuing their streak of poor luck this game. Now, unlike the Ptolemaic king who spent, the Macedon king has only been activated once. So he will get another shot to wipe out the Spartan army and restore Macedon glory to the Peloponnese. So next is the Seleucids. So the Seleucids, they're going to say, okay, we don't like this incursion here by the Ptolemaic king, and we want to do something about it. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring their king. So he's going to start, he could start in Seleucus because they control it, so he might as well. So they control Seleucus because they have, again, if you have a question, you can always look on the card. Which one is Seleucus? Actually, it's down here. So Seleucus, you need 3 places for control. Well, if you notice, they have 4. So they have simple control because they don't have this one place here. So they have simple control of Seleucus. So he can start there. He then musters forces to him. So the royal army has a land path to him. This colonist has a land path to him. And then this colonist also has a land path to him. Now, this city here, you can see it's a stronghold because it has this THM -2. That's going to be very hard for him to siege and take, and especially because the Ptolemaic fleet is going to come out and support it. Again, remember, the Seleucids don't have any squadrons right now. So, even though it's going to be expensive, I think they're going to bring the siege train. Again, this is probably not the optimal play. I'm not here to try to give you an optimal turn 1. I'm just sort of showing how the gameplay works. So, what we have is these units all again go with the king. The king rotates once because he's being activated. And that's going to be 4 units. 12 minus 3 is 9. So they go to 8 talents. Note that since the satrapy is already ravaged, he won't be able to plunder, assuming he wins. The Ptolemaic king will spend 1 talent to reinforce their 1 city. And while it may not be smart for him, he's going to stay and fight. Just so we can sort of see how a large battle might work. So he's got 3 units. None of them are elite. All of them need 1 to 3s to hit. So let's roll his 3 strikes. 1, 2, 3. So he whiffs completely. That's not going to be good for the Ptolemies. Now we look at the Seleucids. So if you notice, he's a 4 leader, and 1 of his units is elite. So elite's going to hit on a 1 to 5. These 2 will hit on a 1 to 4. So I'll roll the 1 to 5 first, which hits, and the 2 1 to 4s, they both hit as well. So 3 hits go against the Ptolemaic king, 0 hits against the Seleucids. Well, each hit disperses 1 unit. You can't apply a hit to the siege train. So this unit's going to disperse. This unit's going to disperse. This unit's going to disperse. This leaves the Ptolemaic king with no units. Siege trains can't retreat, so they also get dispersed. And then the king has to withdraw. Now, he has no units after a combat, so actually his icon, his block on the map would end up going back off map. So the Seleucids have achieved a glorious victory. So what happens when there's a glorious victory like that? Well, outcome. If only one side is routed, it's defeated. Well, that's what happened to the Ptolemies. And this is the big one. If there was a battle, other than indecisive, the winning strategos receives 1 renown, and the loser loses 1 renown. If they're kings, it goes to 2 each. So what happens is this goes up to 3. I forget my short, yeah. So he goes up to 3 renown. So that, remember, that's VPs. So his VPs go up. And then the Ptolemies, they lose 2 renown. And again, those are VPs. So their VPs drop by 2. Now the Seleucid king gets his 4 campaign options. Well, there's only one, and again, he can't plunder. So there's only one thing to do, which is 4 siege rolls. You look at his siege rating, it's a 3. He has the siege train, which adds +1, so it's a 4. So he rolls 4 times, needing 1 to 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the strength and defense, if you remember, it's going to add a -1. This THM -2 is also going to add a -2. So he needs to score a 1 to actually have a hit. Well, he did not roll any hits. There's also this, I didn't put this out, but the squadron would have come out to provide sea support. So let's say that 6 that was rolled was a 1. Okay, so let's say he rolled 3, 1, 2, 2. The way the system works is you can apply these results in any order. So first, he has the 1. 1, so he has a 4 that he needs to roll. -1 for this would make it a 3. Minus the 2 here would make it a 1. So the 1 would score a hit. Because the squadron says, oh, you need 2 hits to take this place, all that 1 would do is remove the strength and defense. But now you look at his other numbers. 3, 2, and 2. Well, again, remember, he needs a 4 minus 2. So one of these 2s could then be applied as the second hit, again, because the squadron requires a second hit. And that's how you would take. So really what he needed to do was get at least 1, 1, and then a second 1 or 2 to take this place. Now, THM -2 places are the hardest places to take in the game. There's no other hard, that's the hardest you're going to get. So this currently is the most difficult type of place to take in the game. Because it's got a strength and defense, it's got the THM -2, and it has sea support. Now, it doesn't get any harder than that. But all he had to do was, if that 6 was a 1, he would have successfully taken it. And that's the end of their activation. And again, if we look on the card, Rome is not active, so they wouldn't do anything. So I'm going to stop here. It's been about a half hour of us getting into the setup and mercenaries and so on and so forth in the first card. And I'll continue this on a subsequent video. Let me bring this up to, that's the 1 reoccurring event. But at least that starts us off on the turn. And like I said, I'll continue this on subsequent videos.